Yeah, I'm going to do a little short video. It's a clip from BlueMarbleScience's channel, and it's a little conversation with PhD, aka the mad scientist Tony, and it's about gravity. Of course, he won't be able to actually say what it is. He's going to hee-haw and ho-hum and try to make up all kinds of garbage. But he has a problem, because gravity isn't a force. And yet he keeps talking about it as if it is, and if it does things.
Has anyone come across a flirt with any reasonable explanations why down instead of like sideways or up or why?
Yes, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth is above, the heavens are above and the earth is beneath. And everything in between the ground and the sky takes its place according to density and buoyancy when it's not restrained. If it's restrained, of course, you can build a bridge and have cars drive across it and they won't fall to the water below because they're being restrained. Take away the bridge and the cars will fall because they are heavier than the air.
It's just a law of nature.
There we go.
It's not a law of nature. It's the way God designed it. But Tony isn't a believer in God at all.
Yeah, everything is seeking its level.
Well, he kind of got that right. Just like water. Water, when it's contained and undisturbed, will be level and flat. And everything, like I said a second ago, will find its place based on density and buoyancy if nothing is restricting it from movement.
Well, I have a rock here that I picked up from the top of a 14,000-foot mountain. Why isn't it seeking its level? And currently, I'm closer to sea level now. It should be, 14,000 feet above my head if it's seeking its level.
That's paid NASA shill, and the dummy thinks that according to density and buoyancy that rocks should fly upward. Okay, I can't even say anything about that. That's just so silly.
You had an argument about. I think you said that once before on one of the discords, did you? NASA shill.
Yeah,
I can't remember who. Yeah, recently I can't remember who it was.
I didn't get any great answers then either.
No.
Well, because to him a great answer is that rocks should fly upwards, just all by themselves. This is the kind of insanity that the Globies have to say.
Yeah, because it's being restrained. If it wasn't restrained, it would go.
Well, what do you mean it's being restrained?
If you build a bridge and you put a car on the bridge, the car isn't going to fall to the ground, right?
Well, let me clarify. I wasn't saying the rock would fly up if unrestrained. I was saying it would fall further down. It would roll down the mountain if it wasn't restrained. But evidently it's come to rest at some fairly level spot where the ground holds it in place.
It's not going to fall down.
Why isn't it going back up, Gary? I took it from 14.
Like I said, Pay NASA shill is a complete moron. He thinks that our model says the rock should fly upward.
Yeah, it's heavier than the air.
But I took it from 14,000 foot. If it's all about returning to your level, like you say, if I take a rock from the bottom of the cliff and take it to the top of the cliff and drop it off, it's because it's returning to its own level. In this case, I took a rock from the top of the hill, I brought it down. Shouldn't it want to return to its own level?
I can't even comment on that. It's so dumb.
If they're restrained,
it's not being restrained.
A rock on a mountain, there's a lot of stuff holding it in place.
It's not being restrained in the upward direction. It's not being.
See, in the Globie world, there's no really direction. There's no directions. There's no up or down. They think gravity causes things to fall down towards the center of the earth, which is just silly. There is no such thing as gravity in the first place, but things simply just fall when they're not restrained. If I hold a rock in my hand, I let go, the rock will fall to the ground because it's unrestrained and it's heavier than the air. This is simple. Anybody can understand this, except for Peyton as a shill and his compatriots.
Restrained in the upward
Doesn't matter.
direction.
It's heavier than the air, so it's not. It's just.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Then why does the rock fall down if it doesn't?
Heaven is operated beneath, just like it was created.
Oh,
It
you see,
can't fall
but
down. It's already on the ground. It's being restrained, Dork.
no, it's not. You see, the problem is that you're returning to your own level only works in the direction we call down. Wonder why there's a downward bias, huh?
No.
Wow.
Well, what if I'm on the mountain and I let go of the helium balloon?
Helium balloons only work by gravity, and if you have it, it's because
Well,
of
that's
buoyancy.
what you like.
Because gravity makes things go up too in their world. It's so silly. There's a lot of things that move up. Hot air moves up.
Say, it doesn't need any gravity whatsoever.
Yeah, it does.
It's just
Buoyancy.
and density. It's going to go up.
Oh wait, hold on.
Reach up, it's
Again, my rock
somewhere.
My rock
Then
here
it'll
should be
stop.
14,000 feet above my head. Then, if it wants to return to its
This is exactly the problem. This is exactly the problem that I was pointing out. Don't talk to him about whether or not rocks fall.
That's PhD Tony, aka Mad Scientist. He doesn't like this argument. That's why he doesn't want these guys to even talk about it, because he knows it's ridiculous. Deep inside, he knows. But he has to keep saying his gibberish because that's what his model calls for.
Should go back to their own level. Don't try and we use gravimeters to map mass that we can't see, that is not directly next to the gravimeter. So it cannot.
Explain how that works. Explain how
Okay.
you use gravity to measure the depths of the ocean. I don't
Okay.
know how you do it. Just explain it. I'll listen.
All right. So we use sea surface height. Because
I'm going to pause it right here. He's going to go on and give a whole bunch of gibberish that is just ridiculous. But I do like this video that's about to play on the screen because it demonstrates why things become unresolvable bottom first. You're going to see them zoom in and zoom out. Just watch what happens. Watch what happens to objects at the surface. I'm going to turn the volume down. Okay. You couldn't see the ship or the buildings or whatever's out there. Now you can. They popped up top first. They're zooming in. Zooming in on a zoom camera is what you're doing is you're increasing the focal length. And that decreases your field of view. So you can see right here, the camera is focused on just a tiny little portion of the original field of view. Now it's backing off. It's decreasing the focal length. So it's increasing the field of view. And those things are going to disappear. That's the way we normally see right now. So here they're going to pop up. They're going to expand outward from center. Everything's expanding out from center. This is so easy to see, so clear. Yet they'll say things are beyond the curvature, but none of these were visible until they zoomed in. Here I'm going to include a couple clips from an Eric Dubay video that he just released recently, and it shows the same thing as the previous little clip of the buildings and the little boat that you couldn't see until you zoomed in. And remember, zooming in is just increasing your focal length, which decreases your field of view. That's how things get magnified, because all the pixels are available for that little tiny field of view. So it has a place to be displayed. When you're just looking at normal, they're too small. You can't see them. You can't resolve them. But you can see the things are going to pop up top first as he zooms in. They're going to become unresolvable bottom first when he backs off the zoom. I'm going to play him in slow motion so you can really see this clear. I'm going to put it on like, I'll just put it on 0.5. So watch what happens. There's a boat out there. Oh, you're starting to pick it up. It's popping up. Oh, there's that boat. Now, let me make a point here. That boat was not visible with the naked eye. So it's not over curve. If it was over a curve, you wouldn't have been able to zoom in on it. In fact, here you can see water beyond the boat, which means the horizon is actually further out. Of course, you wouldn't even see that without the zoom. The horizon would just be at just under eye level, but virtually indistinguishable. So we can see quite a bit of this boat. We can even see riding on the side. Now it's going through waves and swells, but we can see quite a bit of detail on it as it bobs in and out of the swells and waves. Now he's going to back off the zoom, and that boat, you're going to watch the bottom become unresolvable before the entire top does. It's already happening. And the top will be the very last thing that vanishes in the vanishing zone. Oh, that boat is completely gone. Oh, this one's even better. Look how much you can see on this with the zoom camera. I believe it was a P1000, a Nikon P1000. So, as you watch this image of the boat, that red portion at the bottom is going to gradually become unresolvable, but you can still see the top. Of course, here it kind of gives an idea how perspective works. There's a convergence point or a vanishing point. So anything that moves parallel with your line of sight off into the distance will seem to converge towards that line of sight, towards the center. The sky appears to slant down. The tracks appear to slant upward. The sides appear to slant inward. That's how we see. And it's based on the angles subtended to your eye from all the various objects. It's pretty simple.
You said they're not super accurate, right?
They're not. They don't have super high. They don't. Yeah, they're pretty good. So if you look at, I'm not sure if Blue can.
He had just been talking about gravimeters, but when he was talking about them, he said they're not extremely accurate. Which, like I said, it was a bunch of gobbledygook. It wasn't even worth listening to. But you can go to BlueMarbleScience video and watch it if you want.
Bring up a Google Earth image of the oceans. But if you look at Google Earth, you'll see that on a large scale it looks pretty good. As you focus in more and more, you lose resolution. It isn't super accurate in terms of fine detail. The sonar is a better tool, but it does work.
Yeah, my copy.
Gravity push or pull.
Google
Sorry,
Earth's Google Earth's acting up for me a little bit right now, Tony.
Okay. All right, no problem. But the
Gravity, push or pull.
So,
I don't know if you could hear that, but I asked him, does gravity push or pull? Because in their world, it seems to do both. Because they'll say gravity pulls things down. Problem is, gravity isn't a force anymore, according to science. And they'll say when it pulls down the air, it pushes up things like helium balloons. So that's why I asked. It's kind of funny. Is it push or pull?
does gravity push?
Does gravity push or pull?
It's
To do both.
I think Blue had a little bit of a nervous laughter there. He knows the whole thing's a farce, but he has to stick to it. He's a Globie.
no, it doesn't push. Yeah, it pulls.
Well, you say gravity causes the helium balloon to go up.
Yes,
Does it
and
push?
what? No, that's pulling the air down below the.
Now we just said gravity is pulling the air. But gravity isn't a force. It can't push or pull anything. It doesn't do anything. It's almost as if it doesn't exist, which it doesn't.
Balloon, and as the air comes down, it pushes the balloon up.
Actually, that would be displacement. Like I said earlier, heaven is above, earth is beneath. Everything else finds its level in between heaven and earth based on buoyancy and density. And when it's unrestrained, it will find its level. And of course, if the heavier things go down, they displace lighter things and push them up. It's displacement.
But how does gravity pull the air down? Does it worse now again?
Well, this is why I didn't like your question in the.
Well, of course he doesn't like the question because they get cornered all the time and then they squirm out and obfuscate and try to change the subject.
In the first place, because it's a misrepresentation.
No, I'm serious. Does it pull? Is gravity a force now again that pulls the air?
No, so okay, Gary, if you're going to ask a question, please stop talking after you've asked it.
They don't like you to ask questions, which is, he'll just say it's interrupting, but I'm trying to clarify him and get him to answer a specific question, which he doesn't want to do.
Okay.
No, I'm being quiet.
Okay. So.
But I want you to answer that. If gravity is a force and does it pull the air? I just need a simple answer.
Okay. The simple answer is that it doesn't matter one way or the other if gravity is a force.
Wow, did you hear that? Doesn't matter. Well, of course it doesn't matter. It's not a force. It isn't a thing.
Gravity can't really do anything, right?
That is not at all what I said.
Well, how does it do anything if it's not a force?
Because.
How does it do anything if it's not a force? Anything.
So the effects of gravity are due to the difference between the way objects behave under gravity and the way other objects behave when they are receiving offset acceleration.
Well, that was just complete nonsense.
The effect how they behave.
Can you let me finish
I have to, otherwise you're going to keep going and I'm going to miss a.
He doesn't like you to ask a question in the midst of things because he wants to get past all that without questions being asked. Now, this is Blue Marble Science's channel, and Blue Marble's about to white knight for Tony. He's just going to mute me, server mute me so I can't talk anymore. And then I'll just end it at that when it happens because it's pointless. Tony will just go unchallenged. Nobody will be able to question him.
Point. How
Okay.
does gravity affect any of that? It doesn't. It's nothing.
Gravity affects. Okay, gravity. Okay, I'm going to keep this relatively short, and then you can ask a question at the end. Gravity defines the geodesic through space-time that all objects want to follow unless they are acted upon by another force. Do you understand that?
Gravity define that. It doesn't do anything. It's not a force, so it can't define anything or do anything.
That is you're making philosophical arguments there. All you're saying,
I'm making just an average.
all you are saying is philosophical arguments. The nature of reality.
That's what you're doing.
The nature of reality, as we observe it, and we can. The difference is that we can confirm our understanding.
Look at that red highlighted box where the little hand is on. That's Blue Marble getting ready to server mute me. He's got to rescue PhD Tony, aka Mad Scientist. He has a bad temper.
With observations and experiment.
Observe gravity being a force.
Again, whether or not gravity is a force is ultimately irrelevant.
Gravity as a force is what their whole model is about. But they know it's complete bullshit. That's why now they say gravity isn't a force, but they keep finding themselves saying it does things, causes things, pulls things. They can't help it. It's their model.
It can't be irrelevant because it's pretty much the dominant thing in your whole globe model.
Well, that's just what I just said.
It's what defines
planets without gravity because you have to have mass to attract mass. You got to have all kinds of things.
Mass attracting mass. That's the funniest thing of all. Because that's like the chicken. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because they couldn't get their massive planets without gravity pulling in dust and particles and everything else to make a big mass. But without mass, they can't have gravity. So which came first? It's like a dilemma for them. They don't like to talk about those kind of things.
You can't have any of your globe model without.
No, just the one thing you just said. That's all you got to have. Mass attracts mass, Gary.
Well, like I said, it's like the chicken. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Mass can't attract anything because it has to have gravity. You have to have mass to have gravity, but you can't get mass without the gravity in the first place. So their whole model just is ridiculous.
Why does it do that? If it's not
That's
a force.
it.
How does it?
It doesn't make any difference how it does that.
How does it do it, Blue?
It doesn't make any.
It does make a difference. They know they can't point to any way it actually does anything. That's why Blue's jumped in. He's rescuing Tony, is what he's doing. Or he's trying to, but he's just going to make just as big a mess. He'll just end up server muting me, so I can't talk.
Any difference how it does it, Gary?
Gary,
because you're just making something up because you need it to fit your model, but it doesn't work.
No, we're not making stuff up. We are.
I'm just going to mute you.
Speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tony's
He's
losing his
muted.
temper.
You can't shut up, Gary, and let
He just server muted me.
Gary,
Tony talk.
gravity, what you are observing with motion under gravity, if you let something drop, that stuff is following its geodesic. Did Gary just leave?
That's just following its geodesic. What is that? I'll tell you what it is. If you let go of something, it's going to fall to the ground. It's going to follow the path to the ground, unless it's affected by wind, which will cause it to drift somewhat. Or if you throw something, when it loses its trajectory and starts to fall, it'll follow its geodesic. It's going to fall to the ground. That's just gobbledygook language to confuse people who don't pay attention.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Well, he's not going to sit here and continue to talk over the top of you and me. That's not going to happen.
So when you drop something, it is following its geodesic through space-time. Why aren't you...
Space-time. That's an invention of not Newton, totally blank.
You following your geodesics through space-time because you're standing on something, and that is exerting a force on you, so you don't follow it. So there is a difference in the force that you're experiencing and that the falling body is experiencing. Now you can model that in one of two ways. You can say, I'm experiencing the force and the falling thing isn't, or you can say, the falling thing is experiencing the force. Now, the magic of physics is that you'll get the same answer both.
The magic of physics. That's hilarious.
Ways. So it doesn't matter if you're the subject of the upward acting force or the falling object is the subject of the downward acting force.
So what's the upward and downward acting forces? Is it gravity? Remember, they're not. Gravity isn't a force. I call it gravity sometimes because that just bugs the crap out of them.
They're mathematically and physically identical concepts. And this is the point that Einstein was making. Einstein is making the point that gravity acts the same as a constantly accelerating reference frame.
Another bunch of gobbledygook. General relativity was invented by the scientists because Newton's whole bullshit gravity program was all screwed up. So they had to invent something else.
They're the same.
Oh, the something else was the bending of space-time. Space-time. What the heck is space-time? There's no such thing. It's just an invention of the imagination from Einstein.
Thing from the point of view of somebody who's inside them. You don't get around this by saying, well, gravity can't make stuff happen. Gravity does make stuff happen. The stuff it makes happen is that everything follows its geodesic through space.
And how does gravity make everything follow through its geodesic? In other words, just fall to the ground. How does gravity do that? Does it pull? Because gravity isn't a force according to modern science.
Space-time through the principle of least action, and you can deny that. You can claim that there must be some.
Yes, I deny it. It's because it's a joke.
Superior cause for that, and maybe you're right. We are not currently at that level of understanding of why space-time curvature exists or how.
Well, it doesn't exist. And they cannot prove there's any such thing at all. It's just a thought experiment.
What came to be, or but that is metaphysics. Maybe God made it like that.
Metaphysics. Ooh, spooky.
Maybe God does exist and he made it like that.
He does.
We don't know.
Yes, we do.
But and you would think for somebody who wants to prove that God exists, that would be a way to go. Okay, gravity exists because God made it that way.
Why would that be the way to go? This is PhD Tony, aka Mad Scientist, who doesn't believe in God at all. He's stated it numerous times. The whole creation screams of a God who created it. It's to deny it is just the height of stupidity or blindness or whatever you want to call it. They don't want to believe in a God.
fine. But we don't care about the why. All we care about is what it does. We can...
Yeah, things fall. Heaven is up, earth is beneath. Things, if they're heavier than the surrounding medium that they find themselves in, and if they're unrestrained, will go to the ground.
Describe what it does, and we don't care about why it does it. That's not a scientific question.
PhD Tony, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
One thing that
That's Bob the Science Guy. I'm not even going to play any more of this. It's kind of diverting to another subject. But Bob the Science Guy is the same guy who came up with analyzing a black swan image. And he comes up with a new radius of 11,000 plus miles. But that's okay, according to Bob. It's still a ball, except for an 11,000 mile radius changes everything in their model. Everything. Nothing works without their radius. And Bob also believes that you have to steer your car while driving down a highway to adjust for the Coriolis effect of the earth spinning under the car, even though the car is attached to the ground. The guy's an idiot.
kind of confuses me about...
Well, a lot of things confuse Bob. Anyhow, that's the end of this one. They don't have a definition of gravity. They don't know what it is. They made it up. Neil deGrasse Tyson is like the chief spokesman for all astrophysics. He's on television. He's got shows all over the place. He's on the radio all the time. He's got YouTube stuff all over the place. He was on a show one time, and the person asked him, "What is gravity?" Well, he just kind of looked at the camera and goes, "I don't know." Enough said.